And I quote, "I'll be there in a minute. Give me a second."
Time is relative, folks. Time is relative.
Yes. So hey, cheers to everybody in the chat. They're a division rival. I don't care how many wins they get. Screw them.
That wasn't the take I was expecting to hear.
I want to gush over watching live Chris Tanev.
I think that we completely underestimate the skill it takes to play defense.
One highlight or several highlights does not a Calder trophy make.
I'm stepping in here. I'm going to be the crotchety old man here. They need to learn patience. They need to understand the tension, everything, and the drama.
How dare! Look at this. How is McDavid not getting a penalty?
You guys need to calm down with this, okay? You guys need to calm down with it.
They won't play very hard. Oh, they're not going to check. Oh, there's not going to be any passion in these games. Oh, this is just a lengthier all-star game. I think all of you owe us an apology. Welcome to the Shifts and Pucks podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Shifts and Pucks, Facebook.com Shifts and Pucks, YouTube.com Shifts and Pucks, Twitch.com Shifts and Pucks. Subscribe or wherever you get your audio. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have a lot to talk about the Four Nations face-off. But first, before we do that, hello from Calgary, Sean.
Hello. How are you doing there, Kev?
I am very good. I got a lot on my mind, but doing very well. Devin is back from the land of Ontario, the center of the universe, the center of snow, apparently. Devin, first of all, I got to introduce you properly. Pardon for those of you listeners. This is how we introduce Devin. How the fuck are you?
There it is. I'm fucking great, Kev. Thanks for asking.
See, I like getting in that first swear word before you get in that first swear word. So we can just compare.
Yeah, you know, normally it is me. So yeah, I love the fact that you're taking it on yourself to do that. That's hey, I'm rubbing off on people. I love it.
Love it. But yes, we start with the Four Nations, and just basically I start with that rant. There's a bunch of people that got onto the Twitter X and the social media and were like, oh, I'm not going to watch this. Nobody's going to play very hard. Oh my gosh, there's going to be no passion in this. Are you kidding me with this? These players have waited over 8 years to play this type of hockey. And really, actually, the last to 2016, you could kind of legitimately argue there was a bit of, Sean will understand this, wrestling gimmick to us with the North American team. This was the first time, really, we had actual country versus country hockey. And I know Russia's not there, but I think a lot of people have been proven wrong because every country has put their heart and soul and they deserve a round of applause for the effort that they're putting in for this.
Well, they care, and they want to prove prove themselves in a best on best situation. Yes, it's not a perfect best on best situation, but it is. You've got four of the five best hockey nations in the world in this tournament, and majority of the best players in the world, let alone some of the most competitive players in the world here. And what does that lead to? An adrenaline high that I still haven't come off from last night, from the start of the first period.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of curious to see how this was going to go. I knew that these are all competitors. They're the best at what they do. The pride is on the line, especially with Canada versus USA. And really, when it buckles down to it, they want to win. You have Crosby, McKinnon. Those are gamers. McDavid. Yeah, basically the top three best players in the world, or top five of three of the five. And it's kind of silly to think about that now, especially with what transpired last night.
Yeah, let's start from last night because I think there's a lot of meat on that bone to chew. And I said this, I'll say this again. There is no better place to have this game at this time than Montreal, Quebec, Canada. It has just historically been a place where it's the mecca of hockey fans. If you go back, I am old enough to remember the Soviet Red Army playing the Montreal Canadiens. I remember when they did the tour, that was just incredible hockey. I'm old enough to remember Canada Cup '87, which is one of the greatest games. That wasn't in Montreal, but stuff just going on that. The standing ovations over the years to the legends. You even go back to the night that the late, great Guy Lafleur died. That night was just so emotional in Montreal. There's been such a historic reverence. Even from a political perspective, before the Quebec separation vote back in the 90s, there was a game in Montreal the night before, and that crowd sang "O Canada" with all of their hearts. And so there was no better place to have this game at this time, at this hour, than Montreal, Quebec. I will insist on this. With all due respect to the other cities in Canada, Montreal is the place to have it. It is just the historic, it is the castle of Canada in terms of this. And I say that with all the love of the world, with all of the other Canadian fan bases. Montreal is just, there's something different. It's just a unique voice they just have it differently than everybody else. And then you bring in George St. Pierre, and how ironic was it George St. Pierre, knowing what was to come just a few short seconds later, that he's introducing Team Canada. And this is all I'm going to say about the anthem. And from my own perspective, if you pay with this, there's an old saying, if you pay money, you have a right to cheer or jeer whatever way that you want. And they paid money. They went into the game. They have every right to cheer or boo however they see fit. Is that diplomatic?
Very.
Yeah, and then also people need to remember that this is what the booing of the American national anthem is a protest. You're not it, and if you don't like it, well, guess what? You're paying attention to that. And you need to look into why Canadians are doing that, right?
And
go ahead, Dev.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with disrespecting people who have fought for, let's say, the United States, but it's one of the only ways that people of Canada in an atmosphere and in a TV spectacle like sporting events are, to voice their opinion. And I had a conversation with someone last night about, okay, well, they shouldn't be booing, they should just stand there and not say anything. And to me, that is the exact same thing. So booing or just being silent both have their you get your point across, right? You're not cheering for the national anthem. You're just, it's one of those ones where it is controversial on both sides, but I stand by the people who are able to voice their opinions, good or bad, unless you are a Dallas Mavericks fan and get kicked out of a game by mouthing "fire" the owner's name. And to me, that's ridiculous. So, I think it would have been a lot worse if the announcer beforehand didn't say we need to respect the anthems. And but I think that really that kind of shut some people up for sure. But there was obviously still booing.
Well, I disagree with that, because was it in the USA Finland game? They did that, and all of a sudden you just hear this audible fuck that, and then they start booing the anthem.
Yeah, I actually think we shouldn't have said it.
You're almost just more like poking the bear at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a protest. And for the people who don't like it, you need to look into why they're doing it. And to be honest, it added to the political backdrop added to this. Like, this game was going to be must watch no matter what, but you throw in the political backdrop and it boosted it up another notch. It gave it a little more emotion for not only the players but the fans and everyone, like, and all that. Like, it's just, especially in Canada on Canada Flag Day, celebrating the 60th anniversary of the Maple Leaf. Like, it just all those little details just added to how awesome and just amped up everyone was for that first period.
Yeah. And I do want to add, they did boo the anthem, but they cheered and sang with passion that Canada as well. And I think that is also, I do think that needs to be added to that story. And I thought some excellent camera choices focusing that. I mean, you were going to do that anyway, but you could see the face of Austin Matthews. It did affect the players. There's no question about it. And we'll get into here shortly, but then we get into the game, and then right off the bat, Matthew Tkachuk and Brandon Hagel go at it. And holy smokes, I was working last night. Our newsroom just went absolutely bananas. I think everybody went bananas at the start of that. And by the way, can you just please give me Florida, Tampa Bay one more time? Inject that in my veins. Holy smokes. And I'll touch on Brandon. We're going to touch on Brandon Hagel a little bit later. Then Brady Tkachuk and Sam Bennett go after. And I kind of understand that Matthew Tkachuk and Sam Bennett can't fight. So I respect that it had to be Brady and Sam Bennett. First of all, let's go. I called the Matthew Hagel kind of a draw. Would you call it a draw?
I'd say so, yeah. Maybe a little bit towards Hagel, but
yeah, it was definitely close. It was fucking phenomenal. And I just want to say, Matthew Tkachuk is a genius for doing this. Because you had the very first game with Canada versus Sweden. They were flying for the first 5 to 7 minutes of the game, let alone being in Canada. You got to expect that, they're going to come out with some piss and vinegar as far as Canada goes. And they brought it was Canada up here, US down here, as far as the tipping scale in my mind goes. And then Tkachuk bringing it to even. And I thought that was brilliant of him and Brady to do that. And granted, the Miller flight was just like, okay, that, it was almost to a point where it was like, okay, let's get the game going kind of thing. But still loved it.
Sean, I got to ask you, did you have a bit of smile on your face watching JT Miller get punched in the face?
Yeah, of course. Even if he was still on the Canucks, he's an American. like just oh my God. I think that the first fight I was like, okay, this is awesome. Then of course you're like, well, Brady wants to get in on this, and Sam Bennett wants to get in on this, so you knew that one was coming. And then just like scrum after the whistle and third, and then I just at that point I was just laughing. I was out of the bar, just the whole place was just amped up and just buzzing. Like I had gone to that bar to watch Canada Argentina in the Copa America, and it was buzzing then, but this was another level, and I have forgotten how awesome it is to be in just in a communal watch party for lack of a better term, and you're just everyone is just glued to it. And like it's just we waited way too damn long for this.
Yeah.
We did. And just
And the other
we
thing
get it
about
next year
fights
too.
is, exactly, but there won't be any fighting. So that's the difference here is
No.
that they're actually able to fight. And I can't imagine what it's going to be like if Canada and US be in the final. It's going to
and
be
this
insane.
is in Boston too. And I got
in Boston, yeah.
Yeah.
And
We'll get-
potentially no Matthew Tkachuk either. So
Yeah, we'll have to see about that. But yeah. And then Connor McDavid scores, and that roof just first of all, I kind of felt a little the McDavid missed call was like, oh, that's what the Oiler fans complain about. Okay. I see.
I think every like Canucks fans, Flames fans, like all like specifically, I think we're all like did that. We're like, that's a
Yeah.
that's okay.
And then
All right,
the roof,
okay.
then the roof goes off the place when Connor McDavid gets around Charlie McAvoy and does a McDavid and scores, and that place just exploded again. And then this was the Achilles heel. This was our concern going into the Four Nations. And let's go back to the Sweden game. Canada's up 3-1. Adrian Kempe gets up. Quite frankly, it's a soft goal against Jordan Binnington. It allows Sweden to get back into the game, and they end up tying it. And this cost Canada a point, and actually a pretty significant point, it turns out. But that Jake Gensel goal, that is not a good goal. And this is the Jordan Binnington. I guess this is also where I find myself understanding what it's like to be a St. Louis Blues fan. Man, there's moments where Jordan Binnington can come up with a big save, but man, does he let in some soft goals.
Yeah. The first goal last night by it wasn't Gensel, was it? It was
Yeah, it was Gensel because Eichel dropped it.
It was
to him.
Gensel.
Yeah.
It just was. It was soft, and that's a goal that you cannot allow because Canada was back and forth, but Canada was slightly better up until that point, and it just sucked the energy out of the arena. It sucked the energy out of the Canadian team. That's a goal that should not go in.
it was controversial start. He got the win. He did. He got two massive saves in overtime that were huge to keep Canada in that game against Sweden. But man, oh man, that's definitely needs to stop. And if he starts again against Finland.
Oh, hello?
Mm.
Devin
Can you hear me?
froze. Devin,
Oh,
you
there we
froze.
go. We're good. You're back.
Okay. Hill needs to be the starter for Finland. Absolutely. And I mean, the fact that Logan Thompson isn't on the team either is.
Yeah, there's two mistakes. We'll get into the lineup part, but can we talk about the Dylan Larkin goal? Because there's some controversy around this one too. Because I did tweet that I did not like this goal. It's a Crosby giveaway. Everyone thought it was a dump in. Crosby gave it away. Larkin goes in. Harley jumps off the ice. There's a bad line change. But I'm sorry. It's a good shot. I will grant you that. But I do think Jordan Binnington needs to make that save. That is like if this is an international competition with this is best on best, and I think my issue is if this was a regular season game, I could kind of understand all of the things that go with it. But this is a game with best on best, and I think we needed one of the reasons that this game was lost was Hellebuck was better than Binnington, and that is a save he needed to make.
If it's best on best, Where is Logan Thompson? Where is he?
Yeah.
He's on a beach sipping Mai Tais after his big contract extension. You know, it's insane how we've gone from Brodeur, Waugh, Luongo, Fleury, Price. Now we there's no number one. There's no number one. And so it's interesting to see that trend of Canadian goaltenders, and now we're in a massive lull, and we're like, okay, we're squinting. Okay, should it be Binnington? Should it be Hellebuck? Hill? Then we have Montembeault as our third goaltender. Wow.
Grief, Devin, there was a point in time that we were trying to get a Joey Decorda passport.
Yeah, totally. And it boggles my mind that where the goaltending is at within Canada, but Hill needs to be starting next game, period, and stop. And if they lose, they're most likely out. Right?
They are they are out if they lose.
So there's no risk in putting Hill in because Binner is not consistent. He can be brilliant, but then he can shit the bed just in the same play.
Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd go with Aiden Hill on Monday. Canada needs a regulation win to clinch the spot in the final. A overtime or shootout win will leave the door open for Sweden to if they get a regulation win, then they'll go through. So I think you have to go with Aiden Hill. I think it's what did he? He's got 4 goals and he's allowed 4 goals in 2 games, but 3 of them were I would say 3 of them were legit softies. And then another one is one that is definitely savable. That's the best way I would describe that Larkin goal. It was a good shot, just above the pad on the blocker side, but it's still savable.
Yeah. And then, okay, so then we get it's 2-1. And now I'm going to ask a controversial question because I think there's some people that are going to think I'm an idiot when I say this question, but I am going to legitimately ask this. I kind of thought they played Connor McDavid too much. Sam Bennett played 7 minutes. It was really impactful 7 minutes, though. I thought he was on it when he was on the ice. Seth Jarvis played 11 minutes. For me, Seth Jarvis was one of the few forwards that could penetrate that U.S. defense, which I thought was absolute. Oh my gosh, that U.S. defense was phenomenal. Like Brock Faber, Jacob Slavin. Oh my gosh, are they top 10 picks in the National Hockey League? Wait, no. Weird. Is Charlie McAvoy a top 10 pick in the NHL? Wait, no. Weird. Guys, I only thought that you could get legitimate NHL players in the top 10 of the draft. That's what Flames Twitter continues to explain to us with such high intelligence. Wait, weird. How odd. Anyway, Brock Faber, Jacob Slavin. I think there's an argument that Jacob Slavin is one of the best pure defensive defensemen in this game. It's between him and Chris Tanev, right for me right now. But that U.S. defense was phenomenal last night. I mean,
the 2 hits McAvoy had on McDavid were just beautiful.
Oh my gosh, that was an incredible hit.
Let alone getting under the skin of Crosby on that first shift as well. He just kept on pushing him down and getting in his face. And he's a gamer. Yeah.
I just thought they needed that was the thing. I just thought that they needed more. Brandon Hagel, 13 minutes. I just thought they needed more Bennett, Hagel, Jarvis in this game instead of loading up. I understand the temptation. You've got 3 of the greatest players that will probably be at some point discussed in Mount Rushmore lore, but I think you needed more of your Hagel, Jarvis's, Bennett's in this game. I think they should have been because U.S. generally rolled 4 lines for most of the night. I mean, but Kyle Connor, I think, only played 8 minutes, but I think that this was a game that you could have rolled your 4 lines. Maybe I'm wrong.
You definitely could have. The one I got to get on this right now. Mark Stone needs to sit down. He doesn't add anything to me. He's slow. He's good on the PK, but you're going to keep him on that top line with it just doesn't make sense to me. I've been saying since the start of this tournament, which hasn't been long, but once I saw the way that Seth Jarvis was playing, or Braden Point, or Sam Bennett was great last night. I don't think Sam Bennett should be on that top line, but put Jarvis on that top line because you need a mucker, a grinder on that line to just stir shit up and get pucks deep, and that all those fucking cliches that we use all the time and players use all the time they're cliches because they're actually true and they work, right? So yeah, you can load up that top line with McDavid, Crosby, and Point, which is a fantastic line. And Point can be that kind of mid guy that has that high end skill and can push that limit a little bit. But Mark Stone, he can't be on that top line again. He can't.
No, at least not against the States if they get to the final. I think one thing I noticed is like there's three players that I think they got picked for name more than where they're at in their careers, and that's Doughty, Stone, and Marchand. And as good as they have been, they're just not fast enough compared to especially the States right now. And Doughty played okay last night, but you could tell he was chasing at times, and he just and I think it didn't help that the Canada didn't have Theodore Makar, so their transition game was definitely struggling. They definitely struggled to get to the middle of the ice enough. They struggled to have sustained pressure in the offensive zone, and which is why I think you guys are bang on wanting to have someone who's got a little bit more tenacity and a forecheck component to their game in like Jarvis or Point or Konechny up on those on the top line.
Yeah, my other issue here is, and I think that this is one. You guys talked about the Logan Thompson era. I'm gonna bring up the other error in my opinion. I think Zach Hyman not in this lineup is an error. I don't think Sam Reinhart just didn't look comfortable with McDavid and Marner like Hyman would have on that left side. Like he's not Zach Hyman finding his way in front of the net. That's just not Reinhart's game. And I think that was the other miss in terms of just McDavid and Hyman have that chemistry. Reinhart just looked so awkward trying to be on with McDavid and Marner. He doesn't really play the left side, and he looked so awkward trying to do it.
It's because Hyman just didn't have a good start to the year, and when they made the selection for Team Canada, that's when he kind of started being better and being that Zach Hyman, maybe not of last year, but of years prior. And it would have made sense that you had Crosby and Kunitz, right?
Yeah.
The only reason why Kunitz was there was maybe not the only reason, but the majority of the reason was because of Crosby. And that would have made a lot more sense than having Sam Reinhart on that second line or that whatever line you want to put him on, right? He can play down the lineup a little bit more, be that skill that is needed within the third and fourth line.
Yeah.
As much as I like some of the players in that bottom six, I just don't think there's enough speed and enough speed and skill down the lineup. And especially when they try and load up the top two lines, I would really like them to try and spread it out a bit, and putting Reinhart on a line with maybe Braden Point, I think would be
okay. Oh, go ahead.
Especially if they can get through Finland and in the final, they need to be able to run at least three lines pretty consistently to keep up with the States.
Well, this was my proposal. This is my proposal of lines: McKinnon, Crosby, Reinhart, McDavid, Jarvis on the left, and Marner. Point, Hagel, Konechny, Bennett, Cirelli, and Stone. Although I guess you guys are arguing for Stone to be scratched, I'm arguing for Brad Marchand. I know this is Boston. I know that this would be an absolute PR thing, but I didn't think Brad Marchand was that effective last night, to be honest with you. I mean, Sean, the duct tape and voodoo didn't work.
Nope.
And I like Travis Konechny needs to be in the lineup for the next game, no matter what. I mean, if you want to scratch Mark Stone, I'm listening. I'm opening to listen to that, but I think it's either got to be Stone or Marchand that's out.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they do scratch Stone or Marchand. I don't think that would be. I'd be very happy if they did that, but I think that's on the lower probability scale. Because I do think Konechny has a lot to bring, and even having the Cirelli, Hagel, and point line, I thought they weren't terrible by any means, but they weren't amazing last night either. So breaking them up, I think, would be beneficial to spread out that speed that they have. So yeah, I agree. I think that you need to be looking at everything here because this is such a short tournament, and I mean, look at what happened with Sweden, right? They switched up their goaltenders from Gustafsson to Allmark after the first period, and it worked out. It almost worked out for them.
Oh, I did not like. I got to tell you though, I did not like that overtime goal. That was a softie.
Yeah, for sure it was, for sure.
But it did say that change was done because Gustafsson's fighting something as well.
Yeah,
he's got an illness.
Yeah.
So
yeah, fair.
And that's the other thing. You got Makar who's not feeling great, and it's just that's the other thing. Okay, so let's just rewind here. How good would that game have been if Makar and Quinn Hughes were in it too?
Wow.
Missing two of the two best defensemen in the game right now, especially with transition and puck and puck move, like transition and puck control, and they weren't part of that game. Like,
yeah, that sucks. That sucks. I mean, yeah, you're 100% right. Like you're still missing out on those two juggernauts on the back end there for both teams, and I'd be curious on how much of a difference either one of them or both of them would have made in that game. And you know that it would have been big.
Yeah,
they Canada's power play didn't the puck movement, especially up top, wasn't as crisp as it needed to be. And Makar would have made it. I think Makar would have made a difference on the power play for sure. And then Quinn Hughes is just such a game breaker when he's on the ice and has the puck. Like it just would have added to what was already just an insane game.
Yeah. And that I think one of the not talked about turning points of the game was Canada, with all of that within the first 9 seconds, they ended up getting the power play. And I love Josh Morrissey. I really do. But he's just not Cale Makar in terms of moving the puck.
Yeah.
And it was just, that was so unfortunate, but
that would have been huge if they got up by one on that power play.
That gave the U.S. life and almost justified Devin Matthew Tkachuk's genius. Because if Canada's up 1-0, I think there's U.S. people. I think the U.S. is like, what the hell was Matthew Tkachuk thinking?
Yep, for sure.
And then for me, in terms of Canada, I actually didn't mind Drew Doughty's game. I thought he gave, considering he's kind of a little bit behind in terms of where everybody else is in terms of shape. He still played 23. He still got most of the ice time. But let's give Thomas Harley some credit. I mean, he's drinking Mai Tais, gets off the parking lot here and plays 18 minutes. I thought that was a really good 18 minutes. I mean, again, he's not in the camp of some of the top four with the US, but he came in and I thought he did a yeoman job. And let's not forget, Cale Makar was missed, but so was Shea Theodore and Alex Pietrangelo too. Those were two massive losses. And I know that everybody is talking about all the people that were missed, but those were two unfortunate injuries. Or Alex Pietrangelo chose to stay out because of injury. I mean, which Quinn Hughes did, and that both have the right to do that. But Shea Theodore got injured, and that was a massive loss too.
It was. Harley did well. But yeah, he's got thrown right into the fire right off the bat, and like the rules that this tournament has for like rosters, I think needs to be tweaked for the World Cup in what's it going to be 2028, and there needs to be like a taxi squad as part of it as well. And I think once it's a true 18 tournament, I think you will see them do that, just because it becomes a little bit easier to sell the players on it, especially after how good this tournament's been already. Because the fact that he couldn't go out on the ice while Cale Makar was on the ice for practice was just ridiculously stupid. Like that's just bad. Like you want to put on the best product as possible, and you need to allow for that, I think.
Yeah, Harley did a great job within rising to the challenge and him playing 18 minutes. Like, I thought he did really well in that spot that he was put in. So, but yeah, like they definitely need to have some tweaks within the rules. But it is a good kind of precursor for 2028, and hopefully there is going to be 8 teams within that. We'll see what happens there, but I think you really have to tip the cap to Harley, because he played well.
Yeah. The other elephant that was popped in the room, and I just want to get your thoughts on this. Should Tom Wilson been on the team?
Could you imagine the start of the game with Tom Wilson?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I think we'd still be playing right now.
That would be crazy.
No, Tom Wilson's not one of the guys I would have been on there. Like, if you're going to do it, you would have taken off a Hagel or a Sorelli or a Bennett to get him on there. I think they went a little bit too grindery on that for the bottom 6 anyways. I would have preferred to see it maybe a Scheifele in there instead of one of those sort of grinder players. Because we got one of the comments here, Double Rainbow Salad, saying Bennett over Scheifele. I think should have been Bennett or Sorelli, and then you have Scheifele on there, because I think if you could have had a third, like you could look. I think it gives a better, more flexibility and more depth in the lineup for offensive abilities, because we only scored 1 goal last night, right? So like that, whether or not the Canada has enough offense, which sounds absolutely ludicrous when you've got McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby on the same team, but like you have McKinnon and Crosby as one pair. You've got McDavid and Marner as another pair that you build a line around, and then you could have had Reinhart and Scheifele as another pair that you build a line around, right?
Yeah. And
it just would have been. I think it would have been the deeper your lineup is, the more options you have to be able to like fight through a tight checking game like that the States do play.
Yeah, Tom Wilson, I don't think it was a nice story at the beginning of the year for him because he's played so well. I think there's a handful of guys that are ahead of him before you kind of get to that Tom Wilson type of player. But yeah, like as far as Scheifele goes, that was a big miss on Team Canada's part. He's had a hell of a year, and you know that he's not sitting at home. He's definitely on vacation, and who knows if he's paying attention. But he is a gamer. He has that hockey IQ and the ability to play with the top players in the world. And yeah, like you can, as Sean was saying, you can tinker with that lineup whichever way you really want to. If you need a little bit more grit, because he can bring that grit he does have that grit to his game. So Scheifele is a massive miss within Team Canada, and hopefully the GMs and upper brass of Canada will take note of that for Olympics next year.
Yeah. The other one, again, Sean, you talked about this with Graham, but I mean, yes, Colton Parayko fought JT Miller, but there were a number of different options you could have went to other than Colton Parayko, especially if you were bringing in a Travis Sanheim, who is a similarly defensive type player. I mean, you probably would have ultimately ended up with Makar, Pietrangelo, Doughty, and then on your left side you had Morrissey, Tays, and Theodore. But I think for me, he ended up getting hurt anyway, but Noah Dobson would have been a better option for me. I mean, I think Mackenzie Weegar was in that conversation. There's Oiler fans lamenting Evan Bouchard. I don't know if I was on that train necessarily. I'm not a big fan of Evan Bouchard's defensive game. I think I've said this before. I'll say it again. The best defenseman in Edmonton is not Evan Bouchard. It is Matthias Ekholm.
Yeah.
So I wasn't necessarily on that train, but I do think that there were probably some better options for you than Colton Parayko as a defenseman.
I don't think Parayko played bad, but I think Weegar should have been on this team, whether it was in place of Parayko or in place of Pietrangelo when he pulled out of the tournament. I think he's got his speed's better than both Doughty and Parayko. His rush defense is better than both of them. And he's not afraid to be physical, and he's got a really good shot. Like, I think I would have preferred either Weegar or Tanev over going with Doughty or Parayko, I think.
Yeah, you know what? I don't mind. I thought Parayko played well. I'm just looking at his stats for this year. Like, he's fifth in goals for a defenseman in the NHL with 12. He's already at almost a career high in points at 29. And he does hit all facets of the game. I think he's a big body. He doesn't really put himself into tricky situations too often, and if he does, he's able to kind of either he's a good skater for how big he is. So I really don't mind it, but I think with having as many defensemen out as they do right now, that Parayko, I had no problem with him last night or him being a part of Team Canada.
Fair.
And I think if you had you had Pietrangelo, you had Theodore playing, you had Makar playing, we wouldn't be talking about splitting hairs on Colton Parayko. I think if he would, because he would have been either the seventh defenseman or I think it is just splitting hairs. But yeah, I think Weegar would have handled last night a little bit better than a few of the defensemen.
Yeah. Just a sidebar there. We're talking about, there's a lot to talk about Rasmus Andersson and a contract. There's a legitimate argument in terms of Weegar playing better than Andersson this year, considering his defensive partners for most of the year have been the law firm of Bean, Harley, and Maramanov, where Rasmus Andersson has played with Kevin Ball. And Mackenzie Weegar is a plus player this year. Rasmus Andersson is a minus player this year, which kind of surprised me when I looked into that, because I like Rasmus is a minus 16 and Weegar's a plus 11, which I know that plus minus is a flawed stat, but that is a phenomenal difference to me. Anyway.
Yeah, for sure. When it comes to the kind of like the smaller numbers for like a +3 in comparison to a -3, it doesn't matter too much. But yeah, the bigger ones, like a -13 to a +11, that's massive. And yeah.
Just before we get on to some of the other Four Nations stuff, I need to get this out. I spoke about this in Twitter X. I just am getting more increasingly tired of this constant negativity on everything. Like there's so many armchair. I mean, we did it the same thing. I mean, there's armchair GMing this Galaxy. Like some people are treating this Team Canada game like they were the San Jose Sharks. Like for good grief, this is, if it's not the second best game, it is the third best hockey game that I have ever watched with my own 4 eyes, including my glasses. And you forget, like, no Cale Makar, no Alex Pietrangelo, no Shea Theodore, Thomas Harley coming off the Mai Tais and playing 18 minutes. Like, for the love of God, this was just, can we just sit here and just acknowledge that this was an incredible hockey game on an incredible night? And just like, and some of you are the same people that bitched about the 4 nations and what this was going to be anyway. Like, I think just feel like some people are just being negative for the sake of being negative. And it's starting to really aggravate me. Now I'm being negative. But it's just, can we just sit here and just say, wow, what a phenomenal hockey game. Thank you, everyone, for participating.
I mean, it's so easy to be just critical and just nitpick things, especially when you're sitting on your couch watching with a beer in hand or whatever. It's just...
Is he frozen?
Sean, are you frozen?
I'm frozen now.
No, there you go. You're good.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm just, it at some point needed to take a step back and just know that you can nitpick, but that's for coaches, that's for the players, that's for that. If you're going to be doing that for every game, all 82 games of the regular season of the NHL, and for the extra games here we've got for 4 nations, you're gonna find mistakes all the time. But and you're gonna find plays that you can see what the right play is up above everything, whether it's missed penalty calls or just missed plays. You can see based off the angle from the camera, but the players may not see it. The refs may not see it from the angles they see. Like, you have to understand that, right? So yeah, I think my how I'm going to say this is, if you look at your feed and it's constantly negative, and I'm saying that what you post out there, you need to take a step back, go outside and touch some grass. I know sometimes you can't really see the grass right now in Canada, right, Dev? But you need to but you need to just take a step back and enjoy. Like, as much as I wanted to see Canada win last night and everything, but that game just was so much fun to watch. And being in a packed bar, everyone's watching, everyone's paying attention, every screen is on that game. No one's phones out. There's very, very few people having their phones out and scrolling. And if it is, they're like quickly texting someone and then putting it away because they want to watch the game. Like, there's nothing like there's nothing like that. And Canada has done this before too. They've lost the States in the round robin in, I think, the last 2 Olympics that the NHL players have been in, and then beat them in the medal round, semifinals in the Sochi Olympics, and then the gold medal game in Vancouver, right? So it's not over. They still need, they've got Kevin Lankinen and the Finns to beat tomorrow and on Monday. And if they do that and do it in regulation, they get a chance at the States again. And please give that to me, please. I want it.
You know, with all the negativity bullshit, it's you just gotta, like Sean said, take a step back and enjoy what great hockey that was. It was phenomenal.
Yeah,
it was so good. And if you're still gonna be bitching about all this, like the stuff that you can't control, So why is, I've always been a firm believer, if you can control it, fix it. If you can't control it, don't fucking worry about it. Am I upset that Canada lost? Yes, of course. But overall, it was refreshing to see the best on best and Canada versus US. And as Sean said, they're not out of it by any means. And if they are able to beat Finland and go to the finals against the US, you bet your ass that Canada's going to come and they're going to fucking fight for it. And that's going to be a hell of a game. I really, obviously being Canadian, I really hope that does happen. And we're able to see this one more time before the Olympics, because that would be obviously the best case scenario for hockey, for everything. So yeah, if you're fucking pissed off about it, DM me.
There we go. Just a couple of other quick things before we go on to some other Four Nations thing. I also forgot to give credit to this, but folks, I don't think I mean, people keep talking about how great Jack Hughes is. In the U.S., the wrong Jack is getting credit for being an elite center. Jack Eichel is an elite center in the National Hockey League. And Austin Matthews is a Selke Trophy nominee. Yes, I said that, Devin. Austin Matthews should be in the Selke Trophy conversation.
You started with a swear word, and now you're backing Austin Matthews. What the fuck's happening here?
I know.
I love it.
Yeah.
Kevin, I want you to wash your mouth out with some soap after this episode.
I know.
You know how disappointed Tyler and Tyler's dad are with this? God damn it.
Yeah. All right.
No, you are right. Eichel is phenomenal. I didn't think that Jack Hughes had a really good game last night. He had little flashes here and there. I think he can bring a lot more than what he has. I've watched a lot of New Jersey games this year, and he hasn't been as good as he has been in the past. So, and Eichel I think he's, ever since his resurgence in Vegas, he's been phenomenal. Each year he's gotten better. I think this is going to be a career high for him in points and goals. So you 100% right. And if you're a Buffalo, I was going to say Buffalo Bills, but if you're a Sabres fan or a Bills fan, you got to be a little bit upset that he is doing as well as he is over in Vegas, and look at him on the biggest stage in the world, just lighting it up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this leads to, I guess we have to, speaking of negativity, we go to Canucks Twitter, because, of course, before all of this, there was complaints about Petey's game. And then the Miller trade happens. And now Pettersson's game for Team Sweden was under a massive microscope for Canuck fans. No question about it. They were hoping that this would be the turnaround. All of this situation, Miller leaving, and Canuck fans are not happy. This is where I'm at, Sean. I don't feel he has been as bad as Canucks Twitter is making him out to be. I would actually argue he's been better than Zibanejad, but I think Sweden needs more from him.
The issue with Petey right now is I saw this from Jason Bruff on the morning show on 650, talking about how he's got the yips. I think he does. Offensively, I think he has no confidence whatsoever and is double clutching, second guessing every time. Defensive, outside of that, he's playing good, solid hockey. He just is not the dynamic offensive player that we've seen in the past. And that's a lot of that is his confidence is absolutely shattered. I feel like it's slowly coming back, but it's not going to be like it's going to take a while before that switch gets flipped fully. offensively, and I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's not. He is still being a. You talk about Austin Matthews being a Selke level player. Petey's defensive game is close to that, but he's just not producing at the offensively at the level that he needs to, especially with his contract now. So, and I think that's the issue now, is that he just needs to find his game, and which is why when you put out a poll before the tournament started whether or not Petey should
Yeah, I did.
if whether or not he should play in the tournament, and I'm like, he does, because he needs more. He just needs to play. He needs to play to get out of this. The more time he spends thinking about how to get out of it and not actually playing is counterproductive for him. So, I think you're just seeing him work through it right now. Unfortunately, and it's just he just isn't the offensive player that he has been in the past because he has no confidence.
And if you're thinking out there, you're already too late. It's all has to be instinctual, and you do have to have that swagger and the ability to know that you're able to do what needs to get done. And if you're you're thinking for a split second, it's already done. It's already over. So that, like Sean said, the best way to do it is play out of it.
Yeah. And really, to me, I think if I was going to be more critical of Sweden, there's a couple of other areas to be more critical of Sweden. I didn't like that all. I didn't like the overtime goal on Allmark. I didn't think he was particularly sharp overall. I know that he's had some time off, to be fair. And he was kind of put in a very awkward situation, but he wasn't particularly sharp. And this will lead to the other part for Sweden. I'm surprised they haven't played Rasmus Andersson. And I know that maybe I'm wearing my Flames heart on this, but it doesn't they only have one right shot defenseman that they're playing. It's Erik Karlsson. It feels like Gustav Forsling is awkward on the right side. I think I think there was an argument of at least like Erik Karlsson's looked really good, and I think I think they've missed Rasmus Andersson.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they haven't played him either. It's it baffles me. I think I said that to you guys in the group chat there. Where anyone know why they're not playing Andersson? I mean, they do have a great top six defenseman: Hedman, Brodin, Ekholm, Karlsson, Forsling, Dahlin. But I think that with the way that their tournament has gone, I think they do need to shake up within that lineup of something. And Andersson might be not going to say he's going to be a game changer, but it could change the way that they are playing, right?
Who do you take out?
I honestly, Brodin's played so well. I would say Forsling. I don't think he's been as advertised. He's a great defenseman, but if you're going to take one person out, I think it'd be Forsling.
I see. And looking at the time on ice from last game, and Ekholm was the low man on the totem pole there for last game for Sweden. And then when you look at the Canada game, let's see here. You had the low man on the totem pole was Brodin. But Dahlin was right there with him. So yeah, I don't know. The question isn't necessarily why is Andersson not playing, is who I think it's who do you take out to get him in? And I don't think that's not an easy, there's no easy answer there.
I liked Sweden's blue line going into this tournament. I think that there was a argument before that there was probably one of the better blue lines. I was just not enamored with that I just didn't think. Well, I mean, they've scored more goals than I thought. There was no one that scared me on that Sweden forward group. There was no one that was like, oh my gosh, you got to be careful about this guy. And I say that even being an Elias Lindholm fan, he doesn't scare you offensively. Adrian Kempe doesn't scare you offensively. Lucas Raymond has looked really good though.
Yeah, I mean,
Raymond and Nylander.
Yep. Yeah, if I wearing my Toronto hat,
Raymond and Nylander are your probably two biggest. Go for it, Deb.
Yeah, I think we were about to say the same thing. Yeah, both of them are. Forsberg's up there too. Kempe, he's underrated. Jesper Bratt's still a great player. I mean, that fourth line that you kind of squint at a little bit of Arvidsson, Lindholm, and Nyquist, that you're kind of like, oh, okay, that's where the drop off is. Like the top six are pretty solid, and Zibanejad has been the last 2 years have been pretty bad. He's definitely not been the higher end skilled player that he has been in years past. So it is definitely it's not been the best, but I mean, fucking Dylan, Raquel has been solid for a late ad, which I actually agree, because I thought Raquel played a hell of a game against Canada. He was over the ice, and he was probably one of their best players, top 3 easily.
Yeah. The other thing that happened, the other couple of things that have happened here, we've got longer commercial timeouts and shorter intermissions. I do admit I like the shorter intermissions. I think the NHL intermissions are too long. I understand why you have to do that. In some ways, you have to do that, but I like the idea of the shorter intermissions. I don't think the players like the lengthier commercials, though. I think that's kind of been a bit of an adjustment, it sounds like. Any thoughts on that?
I really didn't even notice.
It's 1 minute. I think Tyler pointed out it's a minute longer for commercials and a minute shorter for intermissions.
Yeah.
It
doesn't
change much for me. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's interesting how they did that and why they did that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, but the bigger one, and we did see this in the Canada, it did impact the Canada-Sweden game. It didn't impact much of the Finland-Sweden game, but there was extended to 10 minutes 3-on-3. Nathan McKinnon was asked about it. He said it was too long, but he admitted he was gassed. By the way, speaking of negativity, for the love of God, for the love of all that is holy, Nathan McKinnon is one of the top 3 players in the game. Stop talking about him being selfish. He leads the league in assists. What the hell was that? Anyway. I do.
Yeah,
go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I love having the 10-minute overtime. I think it's fantastic. It's better than a shootout. It is closer to deciding a game in the realm of hockey 3-on-3. Yeah, it's not 5-on-5, but you're not leading it up to 3 players to score on a shootout. It just to me it legitimately gets the game finished in a proper order. And I think now, whenever a team does go into OT, they always do the whole regroup and come in, but it's like you can only do that for a certain amount of time. And then there's going to be some tired fucking boys out there that aren't going to be able to keep up. And then it will be decided more often than not in a overtime with 10 minutes than a 5-minute than shootout.
Agreed. I like that Canada-Sweden overtime was awesome.
Oh, so
good. It was so good. And yes, I think that was best on best. You have McDavid and McKinnon going one way. You've got Crosby going that way. Marner with the game winner, and then you have Forsberg and the Swedes going the other way. Like it was awesome. Like, and yeah, yes, it may be a little bit too long for the players, but then it's just that's the whole point. You need to tire them out so that the mistakes happen and the game's decided before it goes to a shootout.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised based on what I've been reading if they decide to extend it to 7. And I'm going to make the unpopular opinion here. I think just eliminate, if it's tied, just eliminate the shootout and just go with the tie. I know that that's an unpopular opinion, but because everybody wants a winner. But if let's go with the tie. Let's have a 7-minute shootout. If it's tied, it's tied. Like, what are we doing here? Like.
Then you got to change the point system at the end. If there is a tie, then if there is a legitimate tie, either each team gets 0 points or you get a win to 4 points and kind of tier it down that way and have 1 point for each team at the end, so that winning is prioritized within that, and they're not just going to beat out the clock because they're fucking tired.
If you have 3 wins 3 points regulation, 2 points overtime, I think that might be the compromise.
Yeah,
something like that.
I think you just make it 3 points for a win. Period. Then the incentive is to go for the win. Losing 2 points as opposed to having to go like, yeah, I think that's what it should be.
And 0 points for the loss.
You still get.
Sorry, Sean froze, I think.
No, he's thinking.
No, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
No. I honestly, yeah. It's you keep it as 1 point for an overtime loss, because then there's no downside for you going for the win.
Yeah.
There's no point. There's no and yes, there's going to be the math of it near the end of the game, end of the season, where you'd rather not lose the 2 points potentially for it, but early on in the season, like there's no downside for you don't lose a point if you're going for the win.
Yeah.
Fair.
The shootout was needed. It was a novelty that was needed after the 2004 lockout, but it's not needed anymore. It is an outdated process.
Definitely. There's a lot of, I'd say the majority of players and fans they don't like the shootout anymore because it's a gimmicky way to end the game. If they're able to find a way to extend that overtime by 2 minutes or even go to 8 minutes instead of 7, then either have nobody win and you both get 1 point and then a win is 3 points. Then you miss out those 2 points. Then to me that makes a lot of sense. It's hard to. I've always wanted to be a fly on the wall with those board of governor meetings, and what actually goes on there, and some of the suggestions that they do have. Because remember back in the day when they were thinking about changing the nets and making the top corners a bit wider than the rest of the net, kind of thing. Like those gimmicky things. I'm all for hearing them out, but I'd be curious to see what the solution is here for overtime, because I think them extending it is a necessity, whether it's 7, 8, or 10 minutes altogether for overtime. But what happens after that, I'd be curious to see what really comes about.
Yeah, and I also, I mean, I would love to hear to a goalie expert on this, but I do believe that some of these injuries we're seeing, and I would love to see a correlation if there's a correlation between shootout and goalie injuries. I don't know if that's. I don't have a hypothesis, but I would like to see that.
I don't think they're making as many dynamic moves in the shootout than you would in potentially 3-on-3.
Fair. I think one of the other things with the shootout that just is annoying is that and I get the player has a right to do it. For the love of God, though, like you're hanging on to the puck for 22 minutes before you're shooting it. Just shoot the damn puck. Like if we want to time limit the shot for something, like good grief.
Or you can't go past the red line. No backcourt play.
Yeah. No over and back. Yeah, but even then, like, very rarely do you see an overtime that doesn't, like, even with the regrouping and all that, that doesn't just break down into some chaos, and then you get the goal that way. Yeah. You got the regroup either works and they score, or it breaks down at some point, and then it just becomes a track meet.
In terms of Four Nations stuff, is there anything else we need to talk about?
Just give me one more Canada-US game, please.
Shout out. That'd be amazing. That'd be phenomenal. But shout out to John Tortorella for not wearing a turtleneck last night. It's fantastic.
Oh my God.
Suit and tie. Good on you, John.
I'm sorry, but getting back to just the camera shot after the 3 fights for John Tortorella screaming just was. I don't think people realize the historic reference of that, because that was what he's the coach of Vancouver for the line brawl. I
was like, where's Bob Hartley when you need him?
Yeah.
Oh, totally. Just calm, cool, collective on the other side.
Yeah.
There's someone says, like, is this gonna end with like Biddington versus Hellebuck at one point? I'm like, if Tortorella wants to fight, is it going to be Rick Tocchet taking him on?
Yeah.
I think no matter who Torts picked, I think Torts is probably going to lose that fight. But I love his perseverance.
The other area we wanted to chat, and Sean, I know if you have to go, if you want to chime in.
I think Kevin, unfortunately, I think we're gonna have to just call it here. Dev's got to go now as well. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just got a text. I got to put out a fires. But
okay. No worries.
We're
okay. No worries. We're gonna leave it here. Thank you, everyone. How do we follow everyone?
I am Beardy Connect 03 on the X app.
Sorry, go for it. Yep.
No, you
You're always last, Kev. You're always last. You got to wrap it up properly. I don't wrap it up. I don't wrap it up good. Okay. You can follow me on Twitter or X or whatever the fuck it is at Gordhouse09.
Tyler, who TNOBLE, and I assure you, as the man says he's calming, as the man says calm down, everyone, he wasn't calm last night. I promise you, Tyler Noble was not calm last night. Chris is Schneids, SCHNEIDZ. I am KEVOLE on Twitter, KEVOLE, pardon me, Twitter, X, Threads, Blue Sky, and where, of course, you can follow us on wherever you get your podcasts, facebook.com, Shifts and Pucks, youtube.com, Shifts and Pucks, twitch.com, Shifts and Pucks. Again, wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.
What the fuck is Blue Sky?